Wow, we have launched American Currency. I'm Armstrong Williams, the executive editor, and I'm standing with my distinguished colleagues that made this possible. Dr. Benjamin Solomon Carson, who is the founder, and Pastor A.R. Bernard, editor at large. You know, Pastor Bernard, you wrote a piece some time ago on spiritual currency. Talk about spiritual currency and American currency and why what we've engaged in could just be almost revolutionary for online magazines. We're in conjunction where we're doing this with the Washington Times.
Well, when you talk about spiritual currency, you're talking about the value that we have for a moral standard, a conduct, a code of conduct that guides our interactions with each other in business, socially, politically, in every aspect of our lives. And it allows us to see things with great clarity, which is what I believe the magazine is going to do. It's going to bring a fresh voice with greater clarity on the very central themes that drive our nation, and that is a strong moral fiber.
Dr. Carson, you're our founder. You're our leader. All the things that you're so involved in, yet you have time to be the visionary for the launching of American Currency. Why?
Well, it's very important, I think, for people to understand that, particularly in the African American community, there is no monolithic thought pattern. African Americans have independent thoughts just like everybody else does. And in many cases, they lead to some incredible things. You look at people like Frederick Douglass and, George Washington Carver, Booker T. Washington. Very independent in the way that they thought. You look at people like Elijah McCoy, who invented so many things, an African American, the automatic lubrication system for locomotive engines. In fact, he had so many inventions, when something new would come out in the industrial arena, people would say, is that a McCoy? Is that the real McCoy? And I could go on talking about those kinds of things for a long period of time. But a lot of that information is not disseminated. And we need to expose people to other ways of thinking. For instance, in the African American community, the way to really create wealth is for people to learn how to support each other, how to turn their dollars over a few times in their own community before they send them out. That's how you create wealth. And then you must understand, as you're creating that wealth, that you must reach back and bring somebody else along. And if you do that, you really don't need to be dependent on anyone else. We need to break away from the cycle of dependency. And a lot of people don't like it when I say that, particularly a lot of people in the progressive arena. But the fact of the matter is, no one needs to be a dependent in this nation of freedom.
Pastor, you say it, you continue to say it, that we must get back to our moral compass. We must get back to the traditional family. You say when we save the family, we save the communities, we save the country.
Absolutely. And family is foundational. Foundational to family is building up, especially in the community of color, the black male. I mean, we have to resolve the identity crisis that is so prevalent in the society with regard to the black male. And the best way to do that is to take him beyond slavery, beyond any earthly identification, to understand his spiritual roots, his identification with God. And that changes the game.
And Dr. Carson, it seems as though we all are in the black today, and the magazine is really not in the black. This is a magazine where we celebrate writers from all walks of life, from physicians to entertainers. It's not a colored magazine. It's just an emphasis on the plight of black people in this country. And why is that important?
Well, it's important because there are so many who have allowed themselves to be sort of quarantined into thinking just a particular way. And we want people to utilize the full scope of that tremendous intellect that God has provided. Come up with some new and different ways to do things. Talk about schools and how do we get our young people better prepared. Right now, most schools are supported by local taxes, by millage. If you live in an affluent area, you have a very well-equipped school, and if you live in a poor area, not so well. Well, that doesn't do anybody any good. And that's an issue not only for people of color, but for everybody in our society, because we need to recognize for every one of those young people that we can get moving in the right direction. You know, that's another tax-paying, productive member of society who may discover a cure for cancer or a new energy source. We can't afford to waste any of them.
I don't know when it is that the good doctor and the good reverend and yours truly get together, but it's got to be something worthwhile. And I got to tell you what that is about is American currency. And let me make sure you understand it. It's American, CurrentSee.com. Go to the Washington Times and go online. It's some good stuff in there, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Some really good stuff. You better get some. All right.